Welcome back to another episode of the Caffeinated Christian Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Willard. I'm sitting here with Pastor Mike Rigglesworth and Bradley, the man with no last name, sitting on the board. How are you guys doing?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Very good. It's been forever since we've been in the studio.
Yeah.
Like we've been putting out episodes, but
A lot of them pre-recorded stuff.
a lot of pre-recorded stuff. A lot's been happening in my family's life. A lot of good things, but a lot of changes.
Yeah.
So our daughter started preschool.
Oh, man.
So she's in school 5 days a week, and I'm picking her up and dropping her off and all that fun stuff.
Well, we've been working on so much stuff for the podcast anyway, so
We have.
It's true.
there
Behind the
hasn't been a
scenes.
need to be in the studio.
That's right.
True. Has she brought home any sicknesses yet?
Yeah, yeah, and our son got sick. And,
Oh, no.
yeah, and he spikes a fever when he gets sick, and so he's just absolutely miserable.
Yeah. At least he has a
Absolutely
warning
miserable.
sign.
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, but we're good otherwise.
That's great. What about you, Bradley? Anything new?
No, nothing new.
Well,
The Bills are winning. That's
Bills
that's
are
new.
winning.
41-7.
yeah, I know.
That was
my-
But
that was a score.
That was
the
glorious.
Titans, though, so
Yeah.
let's, yeah. It's
yeah,
still
but I mean, like
great
two,
game.
2 years ago, it was like 30 something to like 15.
Yeah. I still struggle watching football games, and let me tell you my reason why. They set aside 4 to 4.5 hours.
Okay.
They typically have truly a runtime of like maybe an hour and 15 minutes. When like a fourth of the time you set apart is only action, I'm going to give the clock running down only action, not
Right.
actual plays that are happening because you still have the shot clock and the clock running.
Oh yeah,
Shot
a lot
clock,
of it's getting the players lined up.
Yeah, I just
Stuff happening in between plays, injuries,
I
flags.
can't watch 35 seconds of a game, 7 minutes of commercials.
Yeah, I just watched the highlights.
I can't
That's all
do
I
it.
do.
I get
Yeah.
so angry when I'm just like, really another commercial break. And I know the NFL does that on purpose because
Sure.
they have to have like specific
That's how they get all the
contracts done
revenue.
with. What?
That's how they
I
get
know,
all the
but it's just like sooner or later I'm just like, this is killing me.
Yeah.
It's killing me.
But like the Super Bowl, at least the commercials are most of the time good.
yeah,
True.
I like when they record the game and all they do is just show the continuous play after. You're talking about?
Yeah.
That's my favorite.
But for me, there's something to be said about watching something unfold live that I
know.
really enjoy.
Yeah.
I generally like watching football. I don't like the flags. I don't like the time in between plays where there's commercials and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I had
well.
one thing new. A week and a half ago, was it? I celebrated my 1-year anniversary with my wife, Sarah. And
Congratulations.
thank you. That connects to the coffee that we are drinking today. So, Bradley, drop that music.
That's already been
It's
dropped.
already been dropped.
It's already on the floor.
Today, we are drinking coffee from Java Joe's. Now, Sarah and I went to Hilton Head Island for 4 or 5 days on our 1 year, and we picked up, as a tourist does, their island flavor coffee, and this one is amaretto truffle from
I love it.
Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. And it's
Bright pink bag.
bright pink bag. We have another flavor too that I will bring on another day. I think
if it's anything like that, like this one,
I think it's hazelnut, the other one I have. But I can't remember. That or caramel. But this is really good tasting. It's
Quite good.
really amaretto-y. But yeah, it's Hilton Head Island from Java Joe's. I think you can just go right online and order that, but it's just not the same experience as being there.
Makes sense.
So it's fantastic. If you have a chance, go order it from them. And you do not get a discount if you shout us out, but just
Yep.
tell them you got it from us.
Yep. we recommend good coffee to you guys.
Absolutely.
If we're drinking coffee that's terrible,
we
know.
tell you.
Like
Yeah,
that
we
bubblegum
warn
coffee.
you. Oh, man. That was
What
terrible.
about that one that you put in the yellow container?
Oh, that
Had,
was
like, the
awful.
Spanish
Oh,
thing?
yeah, what was that?
It's still in my office, and I have not
Is it?
touched it.
It's like
blame
cafe
you.
something.
It's terrible.
It's terrible.
It's awful.
The worst part about that one is it had like a 5-star rating with like 4,000 like reviews.
They paid
Yeah,
people.
or were they taking down the bad reviews? Like you can see, like on Amazon.
Yeah, they took down the other 50,000 one-star reviews.
That's true. That's very true.
But Hilton Head coffee, amaretto flavor, some Java Joe's. It's fantastic.
It still tastes like cherry to me.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah,
Like
I
that's
could
it's
taste that.
it's good, but like that's all I pick up.
but
is
it doesn't
cherry.
taste like cough syrup.
No,
It doesn't taste like that.
no.
No, it tastes like a fresh cherry.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you like cherries, you'll like this.
I like
Absolutely.
cherries.
All right, Mike, we're gonna toss it over to you.
Yeah. Well, if you guys have been following the last couple of episodes that we did, we allowed you guys to listen in on a talk that Ryan gave. It was one talk split into two parts and exhausted because it was that long. And it would have been longer if you didn't pare stuff down.
Oh, and I
right?
cut stuff out too.
And
Yeah.
and Bradley cut stuff out. there were things left on the cutting room
My
floor.
first run through was like 2.5 to 3 hours.
That's amazing.
And I figured everyone would hate me afterwards.
I wouldn't. I would listen to that. But this is a controversial issue. This is a hot button issue within the Christian church. There's this age-old debate between continuationism and cessationism. For those of you who don't know that, there are sects within Christianity. Some believe that God still continues to do the miraculous, and there are others that say that the miraculous ended with Jesus and the apostles.
Right.
Essentially, that's what those two views say. Now, I am a continuationist.
Me too.
Very much so. And it's because of not necessarily what I've seen, but I've had eyewitness accounts of what other people have seen and experienced.
Mm-hmm.
And so in light of those two episodes, if you haven't listened to those episodes, listeners, I would encourage you to go back and listen to them, because everything that we're going to talk about today is kind of framed around that. There's one thing in particular you said in your talk that really struck a chord with me, and it was towards the very end that Ryan laid out all of the things that people who have experienced a miracle in their life, particularly when it comes to physical healing, they report feeling a warmth from the top of their head down to the bottom of their feet.
Right.
So there's one particular story that I thought was really powerful. Came from a pastor that's a good friend and a mentor. He and his wife, about 7-8 years ago, they were at a pastor's and a spouse's conference. And so they were there. It was in the middle of a worship song. And she had suffered from rheumatoid arthritis for many, many years.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what that is, it is a debilitating disease. It keeps you from just living normal life as you should. Well, their church was gearing up to have a healing service. So nothing weird or strange, just come up to the front, we pray over you and ask God to heal you, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, just generally a healing service.
Yeah.
And she was praying to God during this worship song, God, would you heal me at this healing service? It would be really great if you did that. And she heard this still small voice in her head that said, how about right now?
Yeah.
And then warmth goes from the top of her head all the way down to the bottom of her feet. And to this day, she no longer has rheumatoid arthritis.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's amazing. Now, the question of why God chooses to heal some people, not others, it's a bit of a mystery.
Yeah.
We don't know. But he still does miracles.
Yeah. Bradley, you mentioned earlier you heard an example of that too, right?
Oh yeah. I don't have one off the top of my head, but I have heard
okay.
it. I've always heard of the warm sensation every single time.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Now, I don't know what percentage of miracles that takes place in, but from what I was reading of the examples I read in the research these scholars dove into, a large portion of these people that experienced miracles who were tested afterwards by their doctors that first diagnosed them with the condition, they reported that at the moment of healing, or at the moment of they go, maybe it's healed, right? Because some people have conditions that rear its head, say when it's cold outside, with a very bad arthritis, like you said. That a lot of times that all of a sudden they're like, it's warm, they're not feeling it, but all of a sudden it starts getting cold and they're like, I'm not feeling anything.
Right.
And then they harken back to that experience, and then they go get it tested, and doctor's like, it's as if you had nothing in the first place, which is crazy for me to think of.
Yeah.
But as to
It's amazing.
one of the things I really wanted to point out in the beginning of my talk, which hit me, I guess, the hardest, because I always went into this research thinking that miracles were possible. I never really doubted it. I just really wanted to know the arguments against it, because I took the Bible face value to be like, hey, these things still, I don't know where it is where they claim that miracles are not possible anymore after the apostles' death.
Right. There's nothing that says that.
There's nothing that deliberately says that. And even Calvin in his commentary on the Synoptic Gospels 1:11, he still states that. Let me read this to you. He goes, though Christ does not expressly state whether he intends this gift of miracles to be temporary or to remain perpetual in the church, yet it is more probable that miracles were promised only for a time, more probable, that's what he says. he doesn't give us an argument.
But who's to say that?
Right. But this is what he says. In order to give luster to the gospel while it is new or in the state of obscurity. Now, I didn't go into all of this, but I still ask the questions. What do you mean by obscurity? Clearly, there are lands in the world today that are the gospel is obscure to in. You know what I mean? Does that leave that open? What about the luster of people who live in a dark world and this new brilliance of the gospel lighting them up? To his definition, I still think that takes place today.
Absolutely.
And let alone his own confession that it's not explicitly stated. So they go to philosophical arguments against prophecy, which I think fail. But yeah, one of the things I really wanted to hit on was what Dr. Amanda Porterfield states. Like, she states this: foretaste of a better future to show us what God cares about.
Yeah.
And I recall the sermon I did at your church on how can we have confidence in God. And I talked about like God's predestining and creating a world. And I think this is just another category of confidence that we find within the category of miracles, that we ask the question, God is giving us all this. He's going to heal us. No tears. And everything is going, like, how can I have confidence that God can do this? And he's giving us a taste of it now.
Yeah.
And so I can look at someone who goes, no, I don't think you understand. My liver grew back. And I can go, okay, maybe this idea of like, I will be healed one day is a serious consideration.
Yep. It's a foreshadowing of what's to come.
Absolutely. And I that really hit me hard, even though it sounds very simplistic when I say it. The idea of my confidence growing in him based off of these experiences, like, overwhelmed me at that point during Reno, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, and you know, I've seen it in the lives of people who didn't even know Jesus, and who are hardened atheists, and God used a miracle to bring them to Christ. Another story, this is from years ago when I was in youth ministry. There's a student who was coming to our youth group. He and I became, we had a friendship, connected. He was one of those kids I really connected with, and it was a really messed up family situation. His mom had him when he was 14, and his dad was 35. So legally, his dad raped his mom. Yeah. Really, really messed up. Really messed her up. She ended up moving to, I think, Arizona, and he never saw her. Like, he would periodically get a phone call, maybe once or twice went out to visit. Well, one day, I'm driving him home from youth group, and he gets a phone call from his aunt, who's in the hospital with his mom. His mom had abused her body for years and years with drugs and alcohol, and she was on life support, and she says, you better say your goodbyes now. They're getting ready to pull the plug. She's going to be dead by morning. Jeez. And like, I remember seeing the shock and the bewilderment in his face, like just watching just the life drain out of him. Yeah. And he's like, after he got off the phone, he's like, I don't know what to do. And he knew he'd be going home to his dad, who would have been at the bar drinking all night. Yeah. I'm like, well, I don't want him to go there. So we went to a coffee shop and we processed things and prayed with him, and that was the end. The next day, I'm at one of our youth leaders' apartments. It's a small town, and we just hung out with one another. Everybody knew everybody. He comes into the apartment with this ear-to-ear grin on his face, like, why are you grinning like an idiot? Like, what's going on right now? And he's just like, my aunt called, and my mom is walking. And she's talking like nothing ever happened. She's completely and totally healed. And up until this point, he didn't believe in God. He was a militant atheist. He only believed in what he could see, only believed in empirical scientific data. That's the only thing we can know and trust. And here's this God that completely defies that worldview by miraculously healing his mom. And he came to Jesus. Yeah. And he still loves, worship, and serves Jesus today. So God uses miracles to draw people to himself.
Yeah, to grow the church.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Believers and unbelievers grow the church. What do you think, Bradley?
I agree, yeah.
Do you have any extra thoughts on the talk that you want to tell our viewers?
Oh, well, I really
Listeners,
found...
viewers?
Listeners?
It is listeners. Yeah. There's no viewers.
They can view it on on the church YouTube page.
Yes, unless you're just looking at your phone as you watch the podcast, listen to the podcast, you just watch the time.
Which
thing
is
go
highly doubtful.
Yeah.
Well,
I liked I liked the amount of miracles that you shared. Like I liked it wasn't just like one or two. It was like how many? It was like 30 something.
Something like that, yeah. I went through them quick too.
Yeah.
So.
No, yeah, and I liked the difference between each one as well. Like that was something that because I've always believed in miracles as well, but I've never like sat there and been like, oh yeah, like there's so many miracles that happen every day. I've always been like, oh, there's like one or two here and there.
Yeah.
But like that blew my mind how big your list was.
Yeah. Well, it was one of the things I went into this research project with an attitude that like the West, I mentioned this at the end, the West is quiet. And I came out corrected.
right.
And yes, sure, the West might be more quiet in relation to other places, but that doesn't follow that the West is quiet, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And one of the things I really reoriented my mind was like how much God is working in America when it comes to people. And that enlarged my expectation. Versus like, oh man,
Right.
we just live in America. God's doing works over in Africa, over in China, or in North Korea. And America is sort of like this relativistic sort of rise of the nuns, millennials, Gen Z type people. And so
Right.
God just, I don't want to say abandon us, but he's like, fine, I'm going to let you have your way.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And I just think that's wrong. I think God is working more than we ever could realize. And stepping away from studies like Moreland or Keener, and Keener has a 1,400 page volume, and like 700 pages are just like examples of
That's
miracles
amazing.
that he researched. And some of the pages are like, here's an example, here's an example. So it's not like one example per page type thing. And I just realized like, wow, maybe I've misunderstood how much God is working when it comes to the miraculous in our country.
Yeah, and one of the things I really appreciated about your talk too is the you approached it from an intellectual side of things, and you brought a lot of solid stories, but also solid, logical, reasonable arguments. You brought in scholarship to a topic where scholarship is typically not brought to.
Right.
Right.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, and I mean that sincerely. It was phenomenal, and people who are there, I've talked to several of them. They're still talking about it.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's
yeah.
great news.
Yeah. So I appreciated that part, and one of the reasons why is from a personal standpoint. I grew up in a church context where the miraculous was anticipated and expected,
Good. Yeah.
which isn't a bad thing.
Right.
But I think there are extremes you could swing towards. The extreme where miracles never happen,
Yeah.
and then the opposite extreme is where miracles always happen.
Right.
And neither one is healthy. And
They walk out of the bathroom to like the toilet flush by itself.
right.
It's like you have a sensor.
I've always said that
Right.
miracles are a result of faith, not a cause for faith.
Yes.
And
exactly.
that's always how I've looked at it. But I know people that are like, the only way that they'll believe is a miracle, and they only search for miracles, but they only search for big miracles. They don't search for smaller miracles.
right.
And to what you said, Mike, the Moreland specifically says that, like you said, there's these extremes, gullibility and skepticism. And we should have a good middle ground where we're not completely gullible, because if we're completely gullible, that hinders the work for Christ. If we're completely skeptical, that also hinders the work for Christ as well.
And to the point that you made early on in your talk, the devil can produce miracles too. And just because God allows a miracle to happen doesn't mean that God is the cause of that
Exactly.
particular miracle. So on one extreme, you're looking for the miraculous, which could be demonic, okay? And you end up neglecting key pieces of the Bible. 2 Corinthians 12:9, go read it.
Yeah.
Right? If anybody were to get healed, it would have been Paul. And Paul didn't get healed
Right.
from the thing that he wanted God to heal him from. So if you're saying physical healing always has to happen, then what do you do with Paul?
Right.
He had this thorn in his flesh, asked God to take it away 3 times. He pleaded with God, and God said no. My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made
Absolutely.
perfect in weakness.
He didn't tell Paul your faith was weak.
No.
He said, I can do more of a work with you having this thorn than with you not having the thorn.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yep.
That guy goes, no, my will is for you to suffer right now.
Yeah, and that's one of the pitfalls with the theological systems that have been built in some of the Pentecostal streams of faith. And now there are really good theologically astute Pentecostals out there. I've talked with many of them who have their head on straight and they know Scripture really well. There's a lot of them that don't, unfortunately. One of the things that I appreciate about the charismatic streams of the faith is they come with this expectation of miracles.
Yeah.
But again, you can come with this strong expectation of miracles to the point where it almost becomes an idol in and of itself, and you neglect what God might want to do by not doing a miracle.
Right.
Because even when Jesus was here on earth, he didn't heal everybody.
Right.
Not everybody who was sick and who had leprosy and who had diseases, they didn't all get healed.
Right.
They didn't all get healed. But he chose who he healed. And so I've been listening to this podcast. It's called Heaven Bent, and it's fascinating. It's actually, there was a woman who grew up as in the Assembly of God church. I believe it was Assembly of God, Pentecostal stream. She ended up later becoming an agnostic, but she decided to do really good research and journalism into some of the things that have happened in Pentecostal churches. And she's been studying some of these events. And one event in particular she looked at was the first season of the podcast. It was the Toronto Airport Blessing. And even if you guys don't know the name, you probably have heard about it. It's a small church of about 140 people. They brought in this guest speaker who was a revivalist doing this revival in Toronto. And it was this outbreak of really, really, really strange things. People were falling on the floor, speaking in tongues.
The holy fire type
Holy
stuff.
fire, speaking, barking like dogs, meowing like cats. Some weird things started to happen.
They let loose the insane asylum there.
Well, what happened was they were just free to express themselves however they wanted.
Yeah.
That's part of the appeal to this. And but what happened was this became a multi-year revival that spread across multiple churches. And one of the churches that credits itself to the Toronto Airport Blessing, its growth to the Toronto Airport Blessing, is Bethel Church, right? And if you've ever read anything about Bethel, it's you can find all sorts of things on YouTube, but they believe some strange things.
Yeah.
That even Pentecostals are like, I don't think I can go that far.
Right.
Right? And so they believe some strange things. And in the second season of this podcast, she was interviewing somebody who was part of Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry. And the way
Is
they're...
that a real thing?
It's a real
It's
thing.
real, yeah.
It's a very real thing. But the way it works is they have this school, thousands of people sign up to be a part of this school. And a large part of it is evangelistic oriented. So they'll be assigned a neighborhood, and they'll go to that neighborhood and they'll start praying for the Spirit to direct them and lead them to whoever needs Jesus, which isn't wrong.
Right.
It's perfectly fine. But what they do is they have, I believe, a first-year student and a second-year student paired up with one another. The second-year student's kind of the veteran and takes the first-year student under their wing. So they're praying. They're sent out 2 by 2. Again, that's biblical. And this guy who was a second-year student, he said, we were assigned this neighborhood, and the guy that was under me said, I feel like there's somebody in this neighborhood that needs to be healed. He's like, okay. And they end up going to this house. They knock on the door, and it's a guy opens it up, and they see what looks to be this man's wife in the living room laying on a bed. And they said, hey, can we pray for your wife? And he's like, no, freaks, get out of here, pretty much. Like,
Yeah.
no, probably, a little bit more colorful language.
Yeah.
And he shuts the door. That's the end of the exchange. Well, the next day, this guy is called into the guy that was, the student.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He was called into a meeting with the pastors of Bethel about what happened. And they said to him, "So we received reports that you prayed over this woman who had no kneecaps, and her kneecaps grew back." And he said, "That did not happen." I said, "I want to go on record saying that did not happen." But they continue to spread that story as a miraculous event that happened, even though it didn't. So we could be so focused on the miraculous, so focused on God doing a healing work in somebody's life that we're willing to spread falsehoods about something that didn't actually take place.
Right.
And what I think Bethel, it's a case of like, all right, we don't want to lose credibility. We don't want a false story to be found out,
Right.
because it damages our credibility and it damages the stories that actually did happen.
Right.
But it's bearing false witness. It's
Well, I mean,
it's wrong.
I mean, even just look at like some of the European saints, like for examples of like how you can misidentify miracles. Like look at some of the saints and their quote unquote miracles. I mean, you got like Saint Cuthbert, who was of England, that one of his like miracles is that he preached to the puffins.
Like the birds?
Like the birds. He was preaching to the birds.
How did that go?
Apparently very well. Because he became a saint for it.
And then what happened to the birds? Like,
Oh, they went and spread the gospel.
Okay.
okay,
But I mean, like, just like,
how do you verify that?
there's so many, like,
Birds don't speak English.
yeah.
there's so many stories like that
That's
in,
weird.
like, European history. And, like, it just, again, they're focused on the miracle and not what actually, like, matters.
Yeah. But once again, I think how I would approach this would be take it with a grain of salt and can you verify it? Right?
Right.
This woman that's
Should be verifiable.
right. This woman claiming she now has kneecaps, which she didn't have kneecaps, is a very easy verifiable thing. You go to the house again and go, let me see you let me see you jump. Right? Like, and she's either gonna land with kneecaps or without kneecaps.
And talk to the woman who
I don't know what to tell you. That's a very easy
talk to the recipient of the miracle.
Yeah.
Right. And they also claimed that they've had 15 resurrections.
Well, didn't he pray for his daughter to rise?
One of the worship leaders.
Okay, something like that,
They had it's a heartbreaking story. They talk about it. They had a 2-year-old daughter named Olive, and like it's tough like to hear that as a dad, because I have a 4-year-old and I have a 1-year-old.
Yeah.
So for your toddler to die, that is heartbreaking.
For you to bury your kid. Yeah.
I can't, and so they gather people around her grave, and they're singing, "Olive, come out of that grave in Jesus' name." They're singing this, and then like after 6 days, the parents finally said, "She's not coming back."
Yeah.
Like, so. You could be so focused on the miraculous and want it so badly, but you have to remember it might not be God's will.
Exactly. And I think they're working under a flawed assumption, right? That one, people say, you read this verse, if you have enough faith, you can do this to the mountain. Say to the mountain, throw itself in the ocean, and throw itself in the ocean. Now, one, I don't think the context there is how much faith you need to have. I think the context there is showing how little faith you need in order to do things.
How much dependence on God you need to have.
Exactly. And
he's talking about a mustard seed of faith.
But that also assumes that we are able in certain situations to achieve that kind of faith.
Yeah.
There might be situations where if I did have an amount of faith, God would do this through me, but it doesn't follow that I can have an amount of faith given my condition that I'm in.
Right.
Or just in general, right? So I think they make this like weird modal shift.
Yeah. Well, and it has nothing to do with the amount of faith you have as to whether or not somebody gets healed.
Right, exactly.
It's not going to change anything.
And even if you had the greatest faith in the world, it still depends on God's will.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it literally just depends on God's will. And that's why one of my arguments, the people say miracles are highly improbable to happen. I'm like, I don't know if it's highly improbable. I literally say we should remain agnostic against these probabilities. Because if God is free, I don't know what his mind is saying in certain circumstances to produce a probability where he will or will not act in this circumstance. I just have no idea.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that's I don't recall that airport story before, which is interesting, because there's a lot of churches you see on YouTube that do that holy fire or that treasure hunting, which I have my own
which
theological
that
problems.
originated with Bethel.
The treasure hunting.
Yeah,
I think that makes some philosophical assumptions that make a lot of their stories fallacious.
Well, and
but
yeah,
that's
and
another podcast.
Yeah, and in that sense, like you could count that as miraculous, where they're essentially saying, okay, I'm getting these details that are generating from my own mind that I have some frame of reference with, and I'm choosing to make these connections in my outside world, and you're going to be able to do it.
Sure.
Like your brain is able to make those connections.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's not necessarily the Holy Spirit doing it.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, not to rain on anybody's parade, but I'm not a fan of treasure hunting.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither. But I would like to read, if I can, one of the things that... Where is it? I literally just had it on my... I want to read what J.P. Moreland writes in his book on how to expect the miraculous in your life. And he gives us a handful of steps that I think would be helpful in this as we sort of sign off for this podcast.
Yep.
And 7 steps that he gave, because if the arguments against the miraculous, both internal and external, meaning in the church and outside the church, fail, and we see no prima facie, like face value argument from Scripture that the miracles can't happen, then miracles clearly are still happening. And I think we can know them. Mm-hmm. I think we can experience them, and I think there's plenty of examples out there that show scientifically that these things are testable and can be shown to happen. If that's the case, how then can we increase our expectation, right? Mm-hmm. And so let me read you the 7. First one he says is, I said this in the talk, but I would reiterate it again. Doubt your doubts, face your intellectual doubts honestly. And one of the things he really hit on here is we are people who are fallen in our nature, and we are bent towards doubting as the original, like sort of disposition. It's our default position.
It's a factory setting.
Exactly. He said the problem with that is we should doubt if our doubts are correct. For some strange reason, when we doubt, we assume our doubts are like this base knowledge assumption that it's true. Like our doubts have to be true. Mm-hmm. Well, it's very plausible that our worry and our doubts are themselves fallacious and incorrect. Mm-hmm. Why do we hold the base assumption that our doubts and our arguments and our doubts are true? It's very weird. He goes, we should be able to doubt all of those things. Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, we need to intellectually be able to face truths and falsehoods, doubts, knowledge, everything. We need to do our duty and due diligence in what we are believing. Second, he goes, make a habit to ask others about what they've seen and heard, which is a very helpful thing. Yep. Third, he goes, talk to church leadership about sharing more testimonies from the pulpit about the miraculous they have seen or they have heard. Now, some churches here around us don't believe in miracles. They're more cessationalist, or if they're part cessationalist, and I don't want to get into those arguments. Yep. But I also think we could be very cautious here. I think we need to be able to verify these things. I think we need to be able to do our due diligence before we have anyone step up to the mic, because a lot of times we have these stories that are seem miraculous, but in reality it's subjective, and there's no independent sources that can verify.
And there's no witness.
There's no witness, and I do think there is a place for subjective miracles and subjective experiences, but I think that person also needs, like what I went through when I was younger. I put everything to the test for years, and I'm like, what about this? Can I change this up? And I came to the conclusion that this isn't just some delusional or hallucination.
Right. And if somebody has a reputation of being credible in other things, you could stand to reason that they're credible in what they're sharing.
100%. Yeah. Fourth, avoid 2 extremes, gullibility and skepticism. Mm-hmm. Though harm can be done to the cause of Christ by believing something false or failing to believe something true, but because we have good reasons to believe that Christianity is true, we should choose belief instead of doubt when it comes to events we experience. It matters what we start with. Fifth, be honest with your disappointment with God. We need to be able to go, God, why didn't you heal me in this? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do this? And sometimes God not producing a miraculous event may be because he knows what the conversation will start. And the heart is more important than the hands sometimes.
Right.
And so God might know I need to change the heart of the person, not necessarily his feet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and this comes back to just our theology is what is God's primary objective with us? And that's life change. It's Christoformity.
Yeah.
It's character formation into the likeness of Christ.
Yes.
So whether that comes by way of a miracle or not doing a miracle, God is going to allow for whatever it is that happens in your life, whether you get healed or whether you don't, to produce Christoformity in you.
Right.
I think that's important for us to know.
Yeah. 6, he says, read a good book on the arguments for the existence of God. And let me just read you some scholars here against Hume's sort of naturalism sort of underpinning assumptions in his arguments. Dr. Swinburne says, if there's no God, then the laws of nature are the ultimate determinants of what happens. But if there is a God, then whether and for how long and under what circumstances laws of nature operate depend on him, right? As we, Dr. Alston, thus knowledge of how nature normally works tells us nothing about how events might occur if a supernatural entity were to intervene. Right? Once God is in the picture, like miracles, you can't fight against them. You just can't.
Right.
And then lastly, he says basically, read a good book about researched miraculous claims and just soak in the miracles. And that's what I hope you guys can go back and do with the talk and keep listening to it and dive into the arguments. And if you want to reach out to Centerpoint and ask questions or meetingonmain.org and ask questions, feel free to do that.
Yeah. And if you're looking for a good philosophical treatment of the subject of miracles, C.S. Lewis's book on miracles is quite good.
Yeah, I
enjoy it.
I was actually shocked. No, I thought C.S. Lewis, I know he was a scholar on like medieval poetry or something, like medieval literature. And I was actually shocked how many of serious Christian philosophers and theologians considered his work on the miraculous, especially against Hume, a legitimate source and thought process when investigating Hume's arguments. And I was pleasantly shocked to come to that conclusion. So his book on the miraculous is really good.
The dude was smart.
He did work.
All right, well, that wraps it up for another episode of The Caffeinated Christian, guys. And just so you know, we want to make you aware there's a special announcement coming up shortly, so be listening for that. It's going to be coming your way. We think you guys will be pleasantly surprised by that. We're excited to share it with you. So be looking out for that. Be sure to like and subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcast, and be sure to give us a 5-star rating. You could also reach out to us on Facebook and Instagram at The Caffeinated Christian Podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Or you'll hear us next time. See you later, guys.
Viewers.
Viewers.